Welcome to the Health Wealth Podcast and Radio Show with Forbes author and contributor Dr. Josh Luke, America's Healthcare Affordability Authority. Visit drjoshluke.com for information on speaking appearances and other resources.
Welcome to an encore podcast presentation from Forbes Books at forbesbooks.com.
Wow, we've got a great guest for you this time around, Greg. I'm so excited. He's in our virtual green room. Well, not really.
We're at a party. It's the Authority Summit.
And we can see him, which is so shocking.
I know, it's weird.
Love it.
We can see each other, which is shocking.
It's
the
awesome.
bar's open.
Yes, and he just had his book drop today. Forbes book, Health Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. Dr. Josh Luke is with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, you know, the subtitle, too, is Healthcare Bankrupting Your Business? And what a great title, because I think healthcare is bankrupting every business in the country. So I'll just end the mystery, if there is one. About 5 o'clock tonight, it became the number one bestseller in multiple categories on Amazon. So it's been an awesome day. I'm really tired. I have friends all over the country emailing me, telling me that they bought my book, and then I got word that Amazon listed it as number one in multiple categories. So it's Health-Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery, Healthcare Bankrupting Your Business by Dr. Josh Luke. And if you want to learn more about the whole brand, you can go to health-wealth.com.
And I want to make a really important point here, Dr. Josh Luke. Do we call you Josh? Do we call you Dr. Luke? Do we call you Dude?
When they asked me to write this book, said, from now on, you're Dr. Luke and nothing else. And I said, no, even my students at USC, I teach at the University of Southern California, I told them to call me Josh, and now I have to say, no, Forbes told me that I'm Dr. Luke.
Okay, Josh, I got it. You're Josh. Okay, so Josh, Dr. Luke, you just did a brilliant job of talking about the success of your book. But I don't want to discourage people from buying it because they think it's too late. Mm-hmm. So we're going to make you go number one again.
That's cool.
Okay, so we have to get into your background because it's very important. This man's background is going to blow you away, and you're going to want to read the book. Buy 2 copies of the book because of his background and then the message of the book. But when you hear this, go to Amazon, get the book, Health-Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery, Dr. Josh Luke. Let's make it a bestseller again. Thank you, Forbes Books at Bedtime. So before we talk about the book, tell us about your background so that we have some real context for this.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a public speaker by trade, so if you're looking for a public speaker in anything...
Are you ever not selling?
Yeah,
you are selling
I guess I'm a
constantly.
seller. I hate selling, but people tell me I'm good at it. So what I was going to say is when I public speak, I say, hey, the reason I have so much great experience is because I couldn't keep a job for very long. I opened up that slide. And, that's part of what makes me entrepreneurial as well, is that I speak the truth. I speak what's on my mind. And another thing I say when I speak is the best thing about being your own boss is you can say whatever you want, right?
Yeah, baby.
But not on the radio.
That's right.
Thank you.
My son asked me the other day, Dad, I thought they couldn't say those words on the radio. And I said, well, son, there's a list of words that you can say, and there's a list of words that you
Yes.
Seven
Thank you, George Carlin.
Yeah.
But that's for another. That's another topic.
So here we go. So hey, I dreamed of being a professional athlete, like a lot of kids. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a proud Gen Xer. I dreamed of playing for the Dodgers and hitting long balls. I grew up in L.A. and then Showtime Lakers. I loved to shoot the 3 in high school. That was my passion. And then I had 2 older brothers that were professional athletes, and that's a lot of pressure.
You really
for a
did?
kid. Yeah.
What did they play?
Well, my older brother was a professional triathlete. He finished the Ironman. He's the youngest American to finish the Ironman one year. And then my other brother, Matt, a lot of you might know the name Matt Luke, he came up with the Yankees, roommates with Derek Jeter in the minors, and came up with the Yankees. And
I know Matt.
Yeah, dude, he was part of the 96 Yankee World Series team for a few days at least. And then the Dodgers picked him up, and you can imagine how excited I was. I can't tell you how much weight I gained in the summer of 98.
That's a lot of hot dogs.
I was working for a global public relations firm in Los Angeles, but I was leaving at 6 o'clock to go to Dodger Stadium, and I had a steady diet that summer of Coors Light and hot dogs. And once in a while I'd throw in nachos just to mix it up, right? So having 2 older brothers that were great athletes, I'd realized sometime during my senior year that while God had blessed me in many ways, being an athlete was not necessarily one of them. So I set my goals on becoming a sports marketer. And that was my goal.
Nice. And so what year is this?
This is 1994. I graduated from college, and then 96 with my grad degree.
Right. So let's cut right to the chase with the sports marketing. There's a guy I also know that you were very close with, Mark McGuire, who was part of the Bash Brothers with Jose Canseco and was amazing. He chased that 61 Sammy Sosa, and he chasing that record, the Roger Maris record. So talk about that, and talk about you're diving right in huge at a young age at being the sports marketing.
What a blessing it was, too. So I was 26 years old, and my goal, as I said, was to work in sports public relations. Like a lot of college-age kids, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in sports, and I was at a Utah Jazz game because I went to college up in Utah, and somebody from the public relations department gave me some information because I was actually covering it for my school paper.
Yeah.
I was a sports editor. And I said, what do you do? And they said, I work in sports public relations. And then that's the moment I said, that's what I want to do. By the time I got out of grad school, I had worked for a professional, an NHL professional hockey team. I had worked at a PGA Tour event. And within a year of graduating grad school, I had worked for Major League Baseball, the NFL Players Association, and done an NBA event with Gatorade. So I was living my dream, but it was about a week after Mark McGwire broke the home run record in 1998 that his agent called our firm. And I'm an Orange County guy. I'm a Southern California guy, huge Dodger fan. And Mark's from Orange County. And, yeah, I grew up watching him, too, one of the Bash Brothers. I'm proud to say that the last time my Dodgers won the World Series, Mark was on the other side. It was 1988. So, but I got to know Mark, and he was a wonderful dude. And, I try not to, bring that up as like the lead-in because it was just about 6 months of my life that were a whirlwind or whatever. But really opened the door for me to have contacts at the Today Show, David Letterman, the Rosie O'Donnell Show, Time Magazine. So my Rolodex really blew up that year.
But what happened was it did kick open the door for something else because you had to make a life decision, and I heard you talk about this because I saw him do an incredible TED Talk. So fast forward, you're on these private planes, you're going to all those places you just mentioned, and you make a massive turn, and you're newly married.
Yeah, it's crazy, and thanks for bringing that up because it was a monumental week in my life. So on Friday of that week, so this is 1998, I'm 26 years old, I'm getting married on Saturday, the woman of my dreams, she's awesome, right? And so my grandma rolls into town. She lives about an hour outside of L.A., and I grew up very close to her, close family, honored her in every way I could. But I just remember spending time with her the couple days leading up to my wedding. And, of course, when you get into your 20s, you don't get to see your grandfolks as much as you used to. And she just was constantly like, man, I need a new wheelchair, but my insurance won't pay for it. I need this, I need that. My insurance won't pay for it. And I remember sitting there thinking as a mid to late 20s guy, she worked hard, as did Grandpa, their whole life. Why don't they have access to the basic things they need? And I didn't think much of it until the next day I get married on Saturday. And 2 days later, at Monday morning at 4 a.m., I'm at Orange County Airport with my wife, and we get on a private jet to go to New York with Mark McGwire just a few weeks after he'd broken the home run record. We were doing a media tour in New York. And for those of you who don't know what a media tour is, we took Mark to the Today Show, Matt Lauer, Katie Couric, back in that day. We went to David Letterman, the David Letterman Show. We went to Rosie O'Donnell. Harry Winston gave him a $25,000 diamond for free.
That's crazy.
And then we went over to Time Magazine. You know what was cool? And I want to tell you something else that I haven't mentioned to you yet, is every magazine in the country had emailed us saying, or excuse me, back in that day it was faxing, had faxed us and said, we want to interview Mark. And we were only going to do it for one, and we decided on Time Magazine. And guess what? They were the only one that hadn't faxed us, and it's because we thought he had a shot of being the man of the year, and he ended up not being the man of the year for his charitable work, but that year the person of the year was not necessarily for their good deeds, but Mark ended up on the cover. It said McGwire's the hero of the year. So what a great story,
no
right?
No kidding, a great story.
Remind me to tell you the world famous person that I rejected that requested a picture of Mark.
Oh, I love that.
Have you ever heard of Annie Leibovitz?
I know.
Because I hadn't at the time.
The famous photographer.
Apparently she'd done a bunch of Rolling Stone covers, and I told her no, but guess what? I was proven wrong. She came out and did a photo shoot with Mark a few months later.
That's awesome. I love it. So you're upset about your grandmother and basically the lack of this access to health care, and it changes your life. So what did you do? So,
you mentioned the private jet. What a blessing. I never dreamed of being on a private jet in my life, and I've never been on one since. But for that trip to New York, we went on the owner of the St. Louis Cardinals private jet from Orange County, Southern California to New York. And the next day, we were only there about 26 hours. We came back. And, I was exhausted. Married on Saturday, fly out Monday, fly back Tuesday, whirlwind New York media tour. And I look over at my wife of 3.5, 4 days now and just said, wow, what an amazing run. I'm 26 years old. I'm living my dream. I've worked with all 4 professional athletic major league associations, one of the most famous athletes in the world right now. And I just said to my wife, I said, but you know what's been on my mind is just Grandma, and like it's frustrating that she doesn't have a wheelchair. I wish I had some money to give it to her. I mean, I was still an up-and-coming professional.
So you're on private jets.
Yeah,
you're you're living the life, but you don't have enough money for Grandma's wheelchair.
Well, there's a reason. As a young PR guy, they like the young PR guys.
Yeah, they do, because they don't
fire
get paid.
you when you start asking for money, right? It's like working in radio, right?
Yes.
You got to earn your stripes. So I said to my wife that day, my wife of 3 days, I think she thought I was having a midlife crisis. I said, hey, babe, I'm really happy and proud of what we've accomplished, but, you know, now that I'm married, it's just giving me a different perspective. I would love to take my career in a different direction, and I'm not sure what that is, but I think Grandma's been on my mind a lot. Maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's something else, but within about 6 months, I got approached by a student at the university I was teaching at who said, hey, I've heard you talk about wanting a career change. I've heard you talk about your frustration with your grandma. We have an opening within our healthcare organization. And long story, still long, I suppose, here. I ended up in healthcare a few months later.
All right, so what we want to do is, we're going to have Dr. Josh Luke back with us for another segment on Forbes Books at Bedtime. We're going to go deeper into that story. Again, his book is Health-Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery.
The website is health-wealth.com.
Yeah, and it just dropped, so thank you very much. We're going to come back
It's been fun.
tomorrow, and we're going to talk more with Dr. Josh Luke.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great time.
Welcome to an encore podcast presentation from Forbes Books at forbesbooks.com.
Once again, we have a terrific guest with us. We want to go deeper into his story. He has a new book out called Health-Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery, Dr. Josh Luke, and it's published by Forbes Books. It's incredible.
And we're at the Authority Summit in Charleston. So this is, this is something that has been on your radar for years. I'm talking about the Authority Summit now. I mean, just the idea that, you've written this book. You've driven it to be a bestseller. We're going to help you drive it to be a bestseller again. But how important is the idea of being an authority to helping you succeed at your goal? But first, tell us what your goal is relative to healthcare and wealth.
Thanks for asking that question. My goal is to be America's healthcare affordability authority. There's a stat I shared, and it was certainly an honor, and I know it was for you as well, to share the stage at the Authority Summit with some of the most powerful speakers in the world, with Steve Forbes and Adam Whitty. I mean, what an honor to speak at the same event they're at. But I'll tell you, my goal is becoming the America's Healthcare Affordability Authority is to take what I learned as a hospital CEO for 10 years and to share it with America and say there's no transparency here. And you know what one of the most rewarding things about today was for me is the folks at
today, meaning the Authority Summit.
The Authority Summit, I'm sorry. They were kind enough to set up just a brief discussion with me and with Steve Forbes. I mean, somebody any business person looks up to. And that discussion didn't take place until after I was able to see Steve speak at the Authority Summit. And for those of you who are in the room, and I see you shaking your heads, my book is called 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. And when Steve was asked to talk about health care and what it's going to take to fix it in America, he named 4 of my steps. And he and I have never met, and this book hasn't ever been put out.
Wow.
And so I actually had the opportunity when I chatted with him to thank him and say, page 91 talks about the Health-Wealth Hospital Transparency Initiative. And you guys heard him today.
Wow.
He talked about the fact that hospitals don't post prices. My entire TED Talk was about that yesterday.
Wow.
So it was really rewarding. And look, there's nobody better in business to kind of confirm or validate the research you've done. But, as a hospital CEO, I knew that these 9 steps are the answers to save American businesses. Let me ask you guys one question as the 2 hosts here. So what other expense is there in your business, regardless of what your business is, that's out of control? Healthcare is the only one that you can't control. That every year you throw your arms in the air and go,
it's scary.
Another 10% increase.
Well, my wife says that my lunch budget is out of control, but it does not approach the healthcare budget.
No, but the healthcare thing, you're totally right about that. So if you're healthy, you feel good, whatever. My doctor said, I said, what's the best thing you can do? He said, don't get sick.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're joking, but it is very scary to me. And then anybody who has aging parents, friends, all that kind of stuff, I mean, it is frightening. Greg, you know that.
But I want you to drill into this. We're talking with
tell
Dr.
us the
Josh
steps.
Luke. The book is Health-Wealth, bestseller as of today. 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. He went from sports marketing guru. So you were sort of Jerry Maguire, right?
People used to say
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a lot taller than Jerry Maguire.
Yeah,
though.
but sort of a
And
Jerry
better looking, right?
But you have the Jerry Maguire kind of thing,
Sure.
right?
Having a good
And then you
time.
became a hospital CEO.
Yeah.
Now you have a book called Health-Wealth. It's health-wealth.com. And, of course, you can get it at bookstores and Amazon and all the places you get books. But the subtitle is really telling. 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. Help us understand what the 9 steps are.
Yep.
I'm glad you asked that because it's really important that the listener and the reader understand the value proposition to them. And before I tell you a couple of those, I want to tell you that Advantage Media and Forbes Books published Health-Wealth is Healthcare Bankrupting Your Business, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. But in September, Advantage Books is going to release Health-Wealth is Healthcare Bankrupting Your Family.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So-
an obvious and natural
So
follow-up.
all of it's at health-wealth.com. But the point is this, okay? Healthcare is bankrupting American businesses and families. How much longer are we going to tolerate that? And I shared that stat earlier with you, that one of every $2 that a millennial makes in their lifetime at current projections is going to healthcare, and that's tragic.
That's
and
tragic.
I always use that word and put a period afterwards because it's tragic. So let's talk about the takeaway for you, because somebody made a comment to me, and I really appreciate it. Josh, personalize this to me because it kind of sounds like as a voter I really can't make a difference, but you're just telling me to engage in the healthcare process. There's a term I use called EHC. Are you an engaged healthcare consumer? Because when you buy a house, you shop. When you buy a car, you shop. When you buy healthcare, you don't, because the people at the hospital say to you, oh, don't worry, your insurance covers it. And that's the biggest fallacy in history. And they won't give you their pricing because they don't want you to have their pricing.
And they don't have to.
Tell me
Right.
one other business in America where you're not told the pricing before you consume it. And in real estate and in finance, they're required by law to disclose it with signatures.
Right. So you talk about EHC, and I thought that was very powerful. And to me,
you.
that is the
Thank you.
movement. If you can get people to totally buy into that, imagine the power of it. And I think that's what you were thinking, right?
So let's personalize EHC, absolutely. So let me give you some examples because I want your listeners to know, wow, so if I do engage in the process, I can make a difference. So there's 3 Ps. I want you to remember the 3 Ps. Have a plan that's based on personalized medicine and preventative medicine. So I want you to look into DNA testing, not necessarily 23andMe. That's called a partial genome sequence. I want you to really study full genome sequencing, and I want you to know that if you pay for that, or better yet, here's a good one. Here's what you're going to read about in Health-Wealth 9 Steps. You're going to read that your employer should be paying for that for you, right? So then you meet with a doctor or a pharmacist, and it's called pharmacogenetics, and they're going to say, Josh, don't ever take Tylenol again because it doesn't work for you. Advil does, but Tylenol doesn't. Do it at this diagnosis, but here's what's weird. Your wife, Mrs. Luke, she only can use Tylenol, not Advil, because that's her DNA makeup.
Right.
In addition to pharmacogenetics, you have nutrigenetics. Dr. Luke, corn is actually a fuel for you, even though it's not for most people. Avocado is a fuel for you and good food for you based on your DNA makeup, but it's not for most people, and your wife's going to have a DNA makeup. Those 2 things alone fit both into the preventative and the personalized medicine. Then you talk about telehealth and remote monitoring, and let me just finish this point here on that. Humans don't like change. That's just how we're born, okay? So when you finally are told, hey, our new plan, gosh, the cost went up 10% again, but now they want us to do telehealth and remote monitoring, guess what? When you give that a chance, you're not going to have to pick your grandson up from school and change your whole day. You're going to be able to go on your phone and within a half hour have an appointment with the doctor in your living room and be done with it and drop your kid off to school on time, and it's free.
And so and that all sounds awesome to me, but here's the other question, Greg, and me knowing a lot of doctors that are bailing out of, and they're good doctors, but they don't want the malpractice insurance, all the nonsense. Does that help solve that and make the relationship better again between the doctor and patients?
You know, what you're describing is going on everywhere. So in America, you may have heard the term concierge medicine, and let's just get to the point. That's where rich people can go buy into a co-op with a doctor, and they can see him 24/7, him or her, get access to him on the phone. There's another newer model called direct primary care, where it's actually it's very similar, where you get access to doctors or telehealth and remote monitoring 24/7 through your employer because they realize what other insurance in America is every other insurance is catastrophic. auto, life. Not with healthcare. You're going to go to your regular doctor? We're going to cover it. That's part of our problem. So let me point out to you one of the other 9 steps that really gets back to this discussion on personalized. So we talked about DNA testing. We've talked about there's Christian co-ops that you can use. There's all kinds of different options that you can use for reducing your healthcare spending. And so if I open up the book here to the table of contents, there's going to be 9 different steps. I'll read them to you. Alternative insurance models. We just talked about Christian co-ops, and now there's specialized disease programs for diabetics. It's the old 90-10 rule. So for your employees, 10% of your employees are costing you 90% of your spend. You can also do a complete review of every expense you have in your business. I also talked about genome sequencing and artificial intelligence. I need to talk into the mic. Is that what you're telling me? I also like that one of the steps is integrative medicine. And I also say not only with DNA testing, your employer should reward you after 1 or 2 years on the job by paying for a full genome sequence and paying for integrative or naturopathic medicine. We think of that as Eastern medicine or wellness, but guess what? Those practices were very common in America until the 50s and 60s when the pharmaceutical, big pharma, came in and convinced Gen Xers and boomers, if you're sick, the only way to get better is to take drugs.
Yeah, and then we see the results of that, the epidemic, we have the opioid crisis, etc.
Well, and that's just one example. I mean, that's the thing. It's a single example.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We have just a couple of minutes left. The book comes out. We talked about it the other day, how excited you were, and we can feel your passion. What was it like actually seeing the book, though, the Forbes book? What was that like for you?
It's an amazing thing that Forbes, the strongest business brand in the world, would have reached out to me in the beginning and told me there's 8 folks they were considering to write this book, and then narrowed it down and then said, hey, you're the guy that we think needs to teach America to make healthcare affordable. I remember when they suggested that I go to New York and do a kind of concerned businessman photo for the cover, and I said, hey, man, I'm an L.A. guy, so we're going to do that in L.A., and that's what ended up being on the cover. It's a mission at this point. It's personal to me because my kids aren't even millennials; they're Gen Zs, and I can't even think about how I would react if I got out of college and found out that more than 50% of my income was going to go to a substandard healthcare industry in America. So let me answer. You talked about an engaged healthcare consumer. Mm-hmm. There's something we call medical tourism. Okay, that we think of going to India or to Costa Rica, and Steve Forbes today hit it on the head of the nail. Okay, medical tourism is you going 1 county to the south or 2 counties to the north to save 60% on an elective procedure. Right. Steve talked about that today. It was really rewarding for me, and I'll tell you, I saw a stat last week that the average distance you have to travel to get that discount is only 35 miles. So becoming an EHC, an engaged healthcare consumer, means go online, research the doctors. It's called centers of value or centers of excellence.
Wow.
Find those. A lot of times you hear narrow network, but it's more than that.
Right.
And one thing I'll tell you, in healthcare, there's no evidence that higher cost equates to higher quality.
Perfect place to end this. And again, it's Health-Wealth, 9 Steps to Financial Recovery. Is healthcare bankrupting your business?
And
I
your
love
family
it.
Next.
And your family next. Dr. Josh Luke, congratulations. We wish you the best, buddy.
Thanks so much. Hey, at health-wealth.com, we have an interactive 9 steps coming at the end of February as well. So,
sweet. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this encore podcast presentation from Forbes Books at forbesbooks.com.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Health Wealth Podcast and Radio Show with Forbes author and contributor Dr. Josh Luke, America's Healthcare Affordability Authority. Visit drjoshluke.com for information on speaking appearances and other resources.